What's up, everybody? Those of you that have been following my channel long enough probably are used to this. I noticed something interesting. People react to it, whether it's in my comment section or through making their own videos. I get called a rage-baiting grifter, and because for some reason I can't help but take that as a personal challenge, I double down on it. And I do something you're probably not used to from most of your favorite YouTubers. I do some research. Now, this fun little introduction is in regard to the recent video I uploaded about Mario Kart World getting booed at the Game Awards. So I shared a clip of that happening. I left my background music in there. I cut out the video because obviously I don't want to get it removed. If I left the video unedited, I figured it would get hit with a takedown notice. Naturally, I expect most people did not follow up and check the Game Awards video, and they just strictly went based off of the small clip that I shared. And as such, most people came to a conclusion that I was overreacting. They say there was just one person in the crowd booing, and everybody else was overwhelmingly cheering for Mario Kart World. So to start off this video, I'm going to share that entire segment. I'm going to zoom in and change the colors or something so that it doesn't get hit with a takedown. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that yes, there is one person that's louder who's booing and got the booing started, obviously. But there is a deeper undertone of boos. It was definitely more than one person. And as they read through the names, and as they announce Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and as they announce the winner of the segment, if you listen closely enough, you can tell there is clearly a divide in the crowd about this decision. But feel free to use your own ears. Maybe I'm hearing something that you're not, maybe you're hearing something that I'm not. That's besides the point. Either way, even if it was just a single person booing, well, that person gets my respect. But that's not the point of this whole video. Listen to that clip, and then we'll come back and look at some other clips.
Best sports racing game: EA Sports FC 26, F1 25, Mario Kart World, Rematch, and Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. And the Game Award goes to Mario Kart World. Congratulations, Nintendo.
All right, we're back now, right? Did you hear what I heard? Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I might just be losing my mind. Now, regardless of whether or not you think I'm overreacting, I figured it would be fun to look at some other Game Award announcements for Nintendo. So first off, here's the other 2025 Game of the Award winner, when Donkey Kong Bonanza won Best Family-Friendly Game. Again, as I play these clips, pay close attention to people's reactions.
For Best Family Game: Donkey Kong Bonanza, Lego Party, Lego Voyagers, Mario Kart World, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and Split Fiction. And the Game Award goes to Donkey Kong Bonanza!
You heard that, right? Take a mental note of it. I want you to pay close attention to the enthusiastic levels. It's pretty clear you can read the room as to which games are loved and which ones are not. You can read the room as to which publishers are appreciated and which ones are not. At least I could. I could do it when I was listening to it. Now, in general, the point of view of many people is that Nintendo has always been kind of disrespected at these award shows. They're not taken seriously by many of these groups. And it's always been a show that caters more towards like those AAA publishers, those big boy studios, the Sony games, the PC stuff, the stuff that doesn't make it to Nintendo consoles, and that's why Nintendo tends to not win Game of the Year. But as I highlighted in the previous video about this topic, Nintendo in general gets a fairly favorable reaction at these things. Even if they don't win, the audience generally has a pretty big soft spot for Nintendo in the same way that in this year, 2025, they've had a very big soft spot for all things indie. So here's a fun look back at some of the previous years when similar games to the ones that won this year from Nintendo also managed to win an award. First off, we'll start with 2014. Mario Kart World just won racing game, right? Mario Kart 8 won the family-friendly game and the racing game in that year. Here's actually a clip of them winning that same award that Mario Kart World won. Listen to the difference in reactions here.
Best Sports Racing Game: FIFA 15. Trials Fusion. NBA 2K15. Forza Horizon 2. Mario Kart 8.
Anyway, so the winner is What are your guesses? I can't understand anything you're saying. Mario Kart.
You heard that? I know you did. And keep in mind, this is not 2017's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is 2014, when Mario Kart 8 was released on the Wii U, which is a console that is a failure, and yet still, when they mention Mario Kart 8, the crowd goes absolutely bonkers for it. Let's move forward now. We're gonna go to 2017. That's the year the Switch 1 was released. That's the year of Mario Odyssey and Zelda Breath of the Wild. But it's also a year where a handful of indie titles had a big impact. First, let's watch the clip of the 2017 indie titles get a reaction.
All right. And as determined by fan voting, the Game Award goes to Cuphead.
It's okay, right? It's not anything crazy. Not bad, not good. It's pretty mute, all things considered, especially when you compare it to just how enthusiastic everybody was in this 2025 version of the indie titles being announced, considering that the indies took this year by storm. And it's mainly because there is a much larger affinity towards indie titles now compared to 2017. Because, rightfully so, people are disgusted with the main publishers, the big boys, your Nintendos and the like. But in 2017, that was not the case. I showed you how the people of 2025 reacted to Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's not that people were quiet in 2025. It's that people were louder for the things that they actually loved in 2025. But in comparison, let's see them react to the things that they loved in 2017. Here are some clips of the Nintendo games being announced in 2017.
Horizon Zero Dawn from Guerrilla Games. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild from Nintendo. Persona 5 from Atlas. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds from PUBG Corp. And Super Mario Odyssey, also from Nintendo. And now I'm happy to announce the winner for Game of the Year is selected by 51 global media and influencer outlets and the fans. And this year, the Game of the Year goes to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
This is Nintendo's first Game of the Year win at the Game Awards. Tonight, Breath of the Wild also won for Best Action Adventure Game and Best Game Direction.
Is the point that I was trying to make in my previous video, and in this video, more clear now. The public perception of Nintendo is not the same that it was when the 2017 Nintendo Switch launched. In fact, the public perception of Nintendo with the Switch 2 is not even as good as it was during the time of the Wii U. And I've made this claim in the past. When the Wii U failed, people didn't hate Nintendo. They just didn't really like the idea of spending $350 on a Wii U, largely because the latter half of the original Wii's life was kind of underwhelming. But in general, people would still praise Wii U games. They would laugh at Nintendo fans and be like, oh, you're playing baby games. But like, they didn't hate Nintendo fans or hate the Wii U. They just didn't buy it. The perception of Nintendo now in 2025 is one of distaste. Nintendo is now seen in the same lens that Disney is seen at, as Apple is seen by. In that there are many people out there that will still go out and they will buy an iPhone, or they'll still go out and spend money on Disney Plus or watch Disney movies. And then at the exact same time, they'll talk about how disturbed they are by these companies and how much it sucks that they feel like this is the only choice and they're in too deep and it's too late for them to just change their hobby or decide to pick up a different phone. People are reluctantly supporting Nintendo in the same way that many people out there reluctantly support Walmart. It's just another hated corporation now. And that love and that affinity that people had for the underdog, which they used to view Nintendo as an underdog once upon a time. The love and affinity they had for this family-friendly console, this family-friendly brand, this brand that they grew up with, this brand that they still buy for their children. That's no longer there anymore. Now Nintendo is very clearly viewed as the bad guy. Now, it's not that they've never been bad in the past, but you can very clearly argue that they're objectively worse now than they used to be, depending on how you gauge what is good and bad in the gaming industry. And more importantly, when you gauge who is running the company and how people feel towards the individuals at the top. And even more so, how much it has changed from feeling like Nintendo was designed for gamers first, and that was the most important aspect of them. And I've shared quotes about this during the time of Iwata specifically, where he made sure that the company was gamer first always, and how it's now completely evolved where it's money first, greed first, dollar first, and taken every single shortcut imaginable in order to minimize costs as best as they can and increase profits by charging more. Less cost for Nintendo, more cost for the customer, a lower quality product, and still they're setting the prices and the trends of the industry by trying to make the $80 title mainstream. The public perception of Nintendo, of Mario Kart, of their flagship title Donkey Kong Bonanza, a title that for all intents and purposes, even if it's liked by many, it's nowhere near as loved as it would have been 7 or 8 years ago. If today's Nintendo was seen in the same light as the Nintendo of old, the Iwata and Reggie Fils-Aimé Nintendo, which was still seen in spirit through the early years of the Switch One's life, and slowly withered away until we got to the point to where we are now, if people still viewed Nintendo in that same light, the same cheers and the same reactions we saw for the most popular games in the Game Awards of 2025, the indie titles specifically, and even in the case of underdogs like Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, those same enthusiastic loud noises that you heard from people's mouths when they were happy to hear those titles be mentioned would have been amplified and perhaps even louder with Donkey Kong Bonanza and with Mario Kart World. And those would not be the only two games that would make it to the Game Awards for Nintendo. In 2014, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire were there. Meanwhile, Pokemon Legends ZA, the best-selling game on the Switch 2 if you remove all of the bundles, is not even a thought in people's minds during the Game Awards. That's the fall from grace of Nintendo. Because keep in mind, they are a part owner of Game Freak. In fact, it's speculated that they own a majority of Pokemon because they own a large stake in creatures as well as 1/3 of the Pokemon company in general. So it's not to be separated from Game Freak, it's all one and the same. It's the greedy company that we know as Nintendo. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this very short trip down memory lane, where we look back at a time where we, the gaming community, the gaming world, the large majority of fans all throughout the lands, used to actually like Nintendo. Unfortunately, there's now only a vocal minority of gamers that actually do like Nintendo. As a company, of course. The games are still decent. Well, to an extent anyway.